Why a narcissist eventually hates new supply and is constantly haunted by memories of you. Imagine them. They've moved on, right? A new partner, a new beginning, a new you left behind. You'd expect relief, distraction, maybe even rejuvenation. But what often happens instead is something far more revealing and emotionally raw. Within weeks or months, that narcissist who once smiled in the spotlight of your approval starts to crack. They grow cold with a new person. They spew sudden anger or bitterness. And despite enjoying fresh admiration, they become haunted by you, your voice, your smell, your laugh, your presence. In today's video, we'll explore why a narcissist eventually hates new supply and is constantly haunted by memories of you. We'll uncover what psychologists call emotional fallout that follows no contact after idealization, and why deep down narcissists can't let go of what you gave them. If you've ever seen this pattern and wonder what's really driving it beneath the surface smiles or hollow boasts, stick around. You'll soon realize that this haunting is not about love, but about exposure, loss of power, and the collapse of a carefully constructed persona. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll understand why they end up presenting their new source of validation, and why your absence still holds them in ways they can't admit. Let's dive in. To understand this haunting, we need to first understand how narcissists use relationships, and why those relationships always end the same way. Narcissists live for one thing: narcissistic supply, a continuous flow of external validation. It's what feeds their ego, stabilizes their identity, and hides their deep inner emptiness. Ideally, that supply comes from admiring partners, adoring friends, or social followers. But it's not love, it's fuel. When they first find new supply, everything seems perfect. They charm the new partner, showcase affection, and bask in excitement. But within a few weeks, something shifts. Criticism or resistance from the new partner feels intolerable. Their need to be admired overtakes enjoyment. And because supply never comes unchallenged, the relationship begins to sour. But why? Because with new supply comes inevitable internal insecurity. The narcissist starts to hear echoes of an old truth, the emptiness they felt with you, the things they lost when they hurt you, the moments you called them out. And that reflection? They don't like it one bit. Here's what unfolds. 1. The idealization trap. With you, they once experienced instant idealization, the honeymoon phase where everything aligned with their fantasy. They might believe they found the perfect person, but that phase always ends because relationships evolve and complexity surfaces. When the new partner doesn't match that ideal, the narcissist grows disillusioned and resentful. 2. The projection of guilt. Memories of you often resurface right when the new relationship loses its glow. Suddenly they're reminded of guilt or shame they never fully processed. Instead of facing it, they project that feeling onto the new partner and onto you. They start to see everything as a threat: your memory, your traits, your presence. 3. The comparison spiral. As they grow dissatisfied with new supply, they begin measuring everything: conversation, passion, memories, against the high they once got with you. Your laughter, your reaction, your emotional resonance becomes the unspoken gold standard. An inevitable result? Disgust with the new and a longing for the old. 4. The haunting as power vacuum. Most importantly, the haunting exists because of the emotional bankruptcy they feel without you. No matter how much new supply they get, it never equals the history, chemistry, and connection you built together. Abandonment, mystery, regret, they chip away at the narcissist's illusion of control. So behind their pride and arrogance, there's a deep emotional wound. They lost your supply, and it stings. 5. They begin to hate the new supply because it doesn't heal the wound. At first, the new supply looks like a quick fix, a shiny new object to distract from the pain of losing you, to drown out the silence your absence created. But there's a problem. No matter how much attention, affection, or admiration the new person offers, it doesn't work. It doesn't fill the same void. It doesn't undo the shame, the rejection, or the mirror you once held up to them. So what do? They turn on that new supply. The very person who once represented salvation becomes a symbol of everything that's broken within them. The narcissist begins to see the new partner as defective, annoying, or even malicious. all because they couldn't perform the emotional miracle the narcissist silently demanded. Hatred grows, not because the new person did something wrong, but because the fantasy didn't last. The illusion cracked, and the narcissist blames the other person instead of facing their inner emptiness. 6. They feel trapped by the expectations of a real relationship. With you, the narcissist might play the game well, manipulating, controlling, masking their emptiness with calculated affection. But as time passed, they were exposed. Their lack of emotional depth, empathy, and self-awareness caught up with them. With the new supply, the same script begins. At first, it's thrilling. They receive admiration. They get to control the narrative again. But the truth about narcissists is that they can't maintain the illusion forever. Real relationships require vulnerability, consistency, and mutual respect, things they cannot sustain long-term. So when a new person starts asking for real emotional intimacy, accountability, or even just honesty, the narcissist starts to feel cornered. They feel trapped, pressured to get what they don't have. Instead of self-reflecting, they lash out. Instead of changing, they resent. And instead of growing, they spiral. The pressure to behave like a genuine partner becomes intolerable, and soon enough, the relationship begins to rot from the inside. 7. They project their self-hatred onto the new partner. Narcissists carry a fragile, unstable sense of self, something they protect through constant external validation. But when their inner shame gets triggered, often by past wounds or the pain of rejection, it becomes unbearable. Rather than face that shame, they project it. They begin to see their new partner as not good enough. They criticize the way they talk, the way they think, the way they love. Every flaw in the new supply becomes a reflection of a narcissist's own self-loathing. This projection is vicious. It turns the new partner from savior to scapegoat. Everything that reminds the narcissist of their failure, especially how they lost you, gets blamed on the new person. They might even say things like, "You're nothing like my ex. You don't get me. You're so sensitive," just like the last one. But really, they're not talking about the new person. They're trying to run from the haunting guilt that losing you ignited. 8. They can't escape the emotional echoes of what you gave them. One of the reasons narcissists are haunted by you is simple. They know, deep down, that no one else has ever quite seen through them like you did. They might have hated it at the time. They might have fought you, gaslit you, or discarded you. But you challenged their mask. You stood your ground. You offered a form of love that was real, messy, and human, and that terrifies them now. So when they look at the new supply, they see what's missing. There's no shared history, no emotional depth, no hard-won understanding. The new person might adore them, but that adoration is shallow because the narcissist hasn't shown them their real self yet. And ironically, that makes them feel even more alone. They are haunted by the way you called out their manipulation, the way you saw through their lies, the way you offer forgiveness, but not without accountability, the way you finally walked away. You weren't perfect, but you were real. And in a world built on illusion, that reality burns like a scar they can't erase. 9. The relationship with a new supply becomes a chore, not a thrill. Narcissists are driven by the pursuit of intensity, novelty, and the immediate gratification that comes with being admired. They crave emotional highs, the rush of newness, and the thrill of feeling wanted and idealized. In the beginning of a relationship, everything feels electric. Because they're in control, the other person is infatuated, and they're getting a flood of external validation. But this excitement is short-lived. Once the initial dopamine rush fades, as it naturally does in all human connections, something shifts. The relationship that once made them feel powerful and adored begins to feel like a weight. The spark they once fueled becomes a flicker, and instead of feeling energized, they begin to feel burdened. They stop receiving the intense emotional payoff they were addicted to. Praise begins to sound repetitive. Affection feels hollow or even irritating. They grow impatient, bored, and restless. Even the gestures and traits they once claimed to love in their new partner start to annoy them. They begin to feel suffocated by the very attention they once demanded. What once thrilled them now drains them. At this point, they start to withdraw. Emotionally, they detach. The warmth disappears. The attention they once showered becomes cold silence or indifference. And in many cases, it gets worse. Their frustration builds into hostility. They may become passive-aggressive, manipulative, or overtly cruel. Some narcissists escalate into emotional abuse, subtly devaluing the new partner, criticizing them, punishing them for not being enough. It's not about the new person's flaws. It's about the narcissist's inability to sustain emotional depth once the shine wears off. Why does this happen? Because the new partner, like everyone else, eventually fails to uphold the fantasy. The narcissist projected an ideal image onto them in the beginning, not seeing them for who they really were, but for who they needed them to be. When reality intrudes and the new partner shows normal human needs, boundaries, or imperfections, the illusion cracks. And when the illusion fails, the narcissist doesn't look inward. They lash outward. They begin punishing the new supply for falling short of the impossible fantasy. And while they're caught in this cycle of discontent, another emotion starts creeping in, one they never expected: nostalgia. They begin to quietly miss what they once had with you. Not necessarily because they loved you in the way healthy, secure individuals love, but because you represented something far more complex, something far more emotionally grounded. With you, they experienced a deeper level of connection, even if they didn't know how to handle it. With you, they were challenged in ways that forced them to confront parts of themselves they usually avoid. You had emotional layers they couldn't fully control. You had strength. You had empathy. You had moments of calling them out, of seeing through them, of asking for real vulnerability. And even though that terrified them, it also intrigued them because it made them feel something real. Now, in the absence of that emotional challenge, the emptiness within them grows louder. They realize, whether consciously or not, that what they have now lacks the richness, the depth, the reality they once experienced with you. You became a mirror, one that reflected not just who they were, but who they might have been if they were capable of true change. And that thought, it never quite leaves them. It lingers. It haunts. It becomes a silent echo behind every failed connection that follows. 10. They start to obsess over what you're doing now. As their new relationship begins to unravel and lose the intensity it once had, the narcissist's mind inevitably starts circling back to you. The emotional high they chase at the beginning fades, the novelty wears off, and suddenly, their thoughts are no longer centered on the person in front of them, but on the one who got away. Quietly and obsessively, they begin to wonder about your life without them. What are you doing now? Are you genuinely happier without their presence? Have you moved on to someone more stable, more loving, more present than they ever were? Are you thriving, glowing, finding joy in ways they never could give you? These questions don't stem from love or regret in the way emotionally healthy people might feel. Rather, they come from a need to reaffirm their relevance in your life. The narcissist can't stand the possibility that you've truly detached and built a world where they no longer matter. So, in a desperate attempt to reclaim that lost power, they might start scanning your social media, trying to decipher meaning from your posts, your silence, or your smiles. They may reach out indirectly, asking mutual acquaintances about you, probing for signs of heartbreak, searching for evidence that you're still emotionally invested. They may even scroll through old pictures, reread past conversations, replay voice notes, not to reminisce, but to feed the illusion that a part of you still belongs to them. But if you've held firm in your no contact, if you created a peaceful, stable life untouched by their chaos, if you stepped outside their emotional web and refused to return, then you've delivered the ultimate blow. You've severed the last thread they use to pull on you. And that silence, that absence, that freedom, asterisk is what haunts them. They don't just dislike it. They despise it. They hate that they no longer trigger a response from you. They hate that their manipulation no longer penetrates your defenses. They hate that you survived everything they put you through and came out stronger. They hate that their charm, once intoxicating, now holds no power over your peace. They hate that their carefully crafted persona now has no audience to applaud it. They hate that their new source of supply, no matter how eager or affectionate, falls short of the emotional depth and resilience you once gave them. And most of all, they hate the devastating truth they now feel but cannot admit, that the person they once tried to break has become something they cannot escape, a presence that lingers in memory, not as a victim, but as a ghost of strength, freedom, and everything they could never truly possess. This is the final haunting, not just of your image or your absence, but the life you're living that proves they were never as essential, powerful, or unforgettable as they convince themselves to be. So why does a narcissist eventually hate their new supply? Because new supply never solves their inner problem. Because no one else can give them the identity they lost when you walked away. Because love was never the goal, control was. And when that control disappeared with your silence, so did their ability to mask their emotional decay. The haunting is not about you personally. It's about what you represented. Truth, stability, and depth. Things they cannot create themselves. Things they destroy when they get too close. So if you've ever felt discarded or replaced, understand this. It was never about your worth. It was about their incapacity. And now, as they spiral in confusion, projecting hate and resentment towards someone new, they are haunted not because you broke them, but because you revealed them. Stay silent. Stay healing. Stay free. Because what you left behind is now living in their mind, rent-free.